Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Caroline. How are we today?
I'm great. What about you?
You know what? Not only are we in sync today because we were people, we don't choose the same color. I know some of you can't see us, you can only hear us, but not only did we wear white today, but our guests wore white today. So, you know, I think there's something to be said about that. There's something very, very holy that's going to come out of today's interview.
Yes, whoa, that's a big promise. So I'll let you deliver on that.
Well, you know what? Here's the interesting thing. We were just talking, and I'm so excited to have Ed with us today because I was thinking, what a great topic, blind faith. And not that, faith and white are the same color, but I think we kind of get it when we're talking about blind faith, where you just kind of go in, you're not really sure what's going to happen on the back end. And I think our audience knows this by now. They could probably put blind faith in our middle name with some of the things that we've done. But I know we've been listening to his story, and it's so powerful. There's so many elements to it that is inspiring, from the beginning of having blind faith to what happened to culture to cultivating to success. But I got to ask you, Caroline, have you ever taken a risk where you didn't know how it was going to work out on the back end, but did it anyway?
Oh, goodness, I could say, when did I actually evaluated everything before I made a decision? That would be easier to answer because it's about never. I've always been a person to jump and like see what's happening after. But yes, I actually, when I was younger, well, I was in my second year of university and I applied for a bursary to go into an English immersion in Vancouver. So I'm from Montreal, so it's really the two end of the countries. And my brother had moved his whole roofing company there because he went there, fell in love. So he literally came back home, sold everything, packed the family in the car, and like in the and all the trucks and everything. They moved to Vancouver. The bursary came, and I was just like, yes, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna have my brother there. It's gonna be amazing. So they were there for 52 days. It rained for 52 days. So they packed everything back and they moved back to Montreal while I was going to Vancouver. So I basically was 6 weeks with strangers, and then it was amazing. I went to UBC to learn English, and little did you know, I ended up meeting my first husband, who was the father of my two older kids. So I also uprooted and ended up living in Vancouver, which my English was not good at all when I started. So it was a bit of a challenge. And you know what? Vancouver and Montreal, although we're all in Canada, it's two different countries. It's like two different culture, two different ways of doing stuff. So it was an adjustment period, but I'm so glad I did it. Yeah, and I
Well,
think
I
that
think
you
when you
actually did the opposite, no?
I did have the opposite. And isn't it so interesting that so here's the beauty of life, right? So you do these things, you take these jumps. Sometimes you don't even know the reason for 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And when we listen to Ed talk about that, I think that's really what I get from listening to him, is how what you do now, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you have no idea what it's going to grow into. And yes, without details, I had the opposite. And yes, if you're in Canada, you know that Montreal can feel like a different country. And I uprooted in my 20s, and I decided I was going to go to Montreal and sold everything. And I was going to go for 4 years and discover myself and hang out with people and learn new cultures. And I got there, and I felt like I was in foreign land. And I don't even know so much. Yes, it was a different culture. Yes, it was a different language. But it hit me. Not the first week, not the second week, the second month. I was like, I'm a fish out of water. I don't have my backup. The excitement, it eased off, and you were like, I don't know where everything is. And I have to ask, and it takes extra time and extra effort. And those times that you feel alone, you feel lonelier, even though people are a call away. And so, yes, there was the language barrier. Yes, there was people that wouldn't talk to me because I didn't speak French. I got robbed within 24 24 hours of arriving. I, I left my stuff in a car because I'm just so used to being able to do that, not realizing that wasn't a smart thing to do. And all these kind of things happened, right? I'd never been on an underground subway because in Vancouver, we're above the ground and you guys are below the ground. I was like, I feel like I'm in New York here. And so there was all these different things that actually, when the homesickness hit, wow, unexpected. It's those kind of things that people don't talk about when they're like, I traveled all around the world and it was such a great experience. I mean, there's the truth, which is what we talk about, and then there's the experience, right? And so I had all of that.
Yeah,
And
and
then yes,
I think also that everyone at some point you sit there and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? Can someone
what have I
please?
done?
I should have listened to my mother and I should have listened to so and so and I should have listened to so and so. But let's talk about our guest today that,
Absolutely.
we were pretty courageous because we moved at the other end of the country. But this guy really moved, not at the other end of the country. He moved basically in a complete different world. And I stopped one night where he actually lives now, and I was completely lost because it is a cultural shock when you're not used to it. So, welcome Edvard Vondra to the True That Show.
Hi, Caroline. Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some of my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I think,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
look at that. I think it's been a great lead, and I think everybody now is wondering, where did you move? And because we're talking about us, so maybe just give us a little bit of your experience, and really, I think we could just call this show Courage, and you could take it away from there.
Okay, so let me start with one story. So I was born in Croatia, which is in Europe. I think many of your people who are watching this interview know where Croatia is. And I had a stable life, which means business, house, car, established life. I met my wife, I married. So everything was well. And but then something inside of you, like your inner talk tell you like, this life can be same in 10 years from now as it is at that moment. And that was very scary to me. And I knew something is going to change. I didn't know what's going to change, but then actually changed quite a lot. So in 2011, because my wife, she is Japanese, so she's native Japanese, and she studied music academy in my hometown in Croatia. And in 2011, as you might know, the big earthquake happened in Japan. Really huge earthquake following with a tsunami, 20, 30 meters high tsunami. So, and her hometown was actually hit by tsunami. And I remember that moment when I came to home, I was watching on the CNN, and it was like an unrealistic video, which I just saw, because only 2 months ago, before the tsunami, I was there on the holidays. And then I was talking with my wife, and she was completely quiet, completely out of the, anything. And she was just trying to reach out to her mother and father, but with no success. And that was like for almost 2 or 3 days, because all internet connection, all telephone, everything was not working at all. And then hopefully, they both survived. So it was not, the tsunami didn't hit their house. So that was the good news. But after that moment, she changed. So after 11 years living in Croatia, she wanted to move back in Japan. And I think that's kind of what you, Deborah, explained very well. That's kind of when you feel that homesick, is just hit you, and you cannot, you just want to go back home. And that was in 2011, and and of course that also hit me, because I knew something's going to change. And then earthquake happened, which is a big event, and usually after the natural disaster wars, something people make a new decision. And she asked me, I want to go back. Do you want to go with me, or you want to stay here? And then I said, okay, what I have in Japan: 0 friends, 0 business connection, language skills 0, nothing. Just like I like Japan as a tourist, but that's a very different game when you visit Japan as somebody who you want to live there. but I made the decision, and the first step which I did is to enter MBA school in Tokyo here, just to meet some people in Tokyo and understand a little bit more about the business. And I applied on one MBA school here in Tokyo, and I bought the ticket, and we decided to move. And I didn't know I will be accepted from MBA school maybe 5 or 6 days before that flight. So that was kind of super risky, and I quit my job. I sold my company and sold my properties. So, and then I told my friend like 1 year in advance that I'm gonna move there. They said, "You are crazy. You don't know where you go. What you can do in your life is almost perfect here. Why should you leave?" And I remember in 3 a.m. in the morning, I received one email from that MBA school that I'm accepted. So that was just like, okay, this is a signal. It's actually maybe not so bad decision. That was at that time. And then I landed in Japan. I remember still right now. It was only my wife, me, and our cat. So we also moved our cat from Croatia to Japan, and that was the whole different story. How long preparation took us for the Japan. But actually, because of that story, I start to learn about Japan. That there are so many rules you have to follow to survive in this society. It's a society driven by rules, which is very different than in Europe, and maybe I can imagine very different from the US and Canada too. So when I came in Japan, the first 3 months I was completely out of the world. Like I didn't know what to do. Like, and then you have a kanjis, Chinese characters, so you cannot read the signs. You cannot speak with the people. It was just like alien on the new planet. And it was cold. I remember that it was winter. It was actually it was a few days ago. It was 7 years anniversary. And then after 5 months, my MBA started, and then I start to adjust to the culture, adjust to the everything, and I get my MBA diploma. And then I was thinking, should I work for the Japanese company, or should I do something else? Because in Croatia, I had my own business, and I'm an entrepreneur by nature. But how you can set up the company if you don't know anyone, or so. But I enter in one Japanese company as just for the internship. And only after 3 months, I realized this is not for me. This is the place where I'm not going to be happy. It's a very, very, very different culture, and it's not about my culture or Japanese culture. It's just not good fit for me. And so I realized I will take a new risk, and I will start my own business. Although that was super crazy, and from this perspective, very, very brave. But I joined one tech startup in Tokyo, and we developed one mobile application. So it was a very good experience for me, and it was international team. And yeah, so that's how I started completely new life. And now 7 years after that moment, thanks God, everything is well again. So what I learned that no matter what happened in your life, and no matter how what kind of external environment, if you really decide what you want to do, somehow you can make it. Like just like this email which I received in 3 a.m. from MBA, and those kind of things happen to me all the time. When you make a decision, you don't know how that's going to look like, what exactly is going to happen, but I start to realize it's going to happen somehow. So that's maybe the key message of living in a completely different world with no network, zero connection, to the stage that you start to be comfortable with the new culture and start to do again what you really like to do and what inspire you.
Well, congratulations on that, because starting a business is quite an accomplishment. Starting it in the how you started it, it's wow. So congratulations. Um, and yes, it must have been quite the adjustment, and you must love your wife quite a lot because to uproot like that and go. But then I know that you started working with Women Network, and I would like for you to tell us a little bit how you got into that, because like you just said, you had no network to now you are in network, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So my wife, she used to live in Croatia for 11 years. So I didn't know how hard that must be might be at the time when we used to live in Croatia. I realized that how hard it was be when we moved in Japan, because she was in completely same position. Even maybe if she was a 18 years old student when she moved from Japan to Croatia, it's like completely, you can imagine, right? So then I start to appreciate my wife even much more than before, because I realized, wow, how brave she were. And when we moved in Japan, she was also the foreigner, because after 11 years you don't live in your country, you also are kind of newcomer, so nobody knows about you, nobody care. And the one of the starting point for me when I was thinking about female empowerment, female entrepreneurship, because my wife, she's an artist, and she studied very hard for 25 years piano, and she really worked with a great pianist, and but it's not profitable. So that's the common situation globally. And but she never wanted to give up of her passion, never wanted to give up. And when we moved in Japan, I had my saving, and we lived from my saving. But then she didn't want to move in a company, she didn't want to take that step to move in a company and be unhappy, or and she started just write a blog, about her experience in Croatia, about her experience, about how she see the music. And that blog gradually expand to 50 readers, 100 readers, 500 readers. And then she said, okay, now is the time that I can open my school, because I have enough readers who follow me, so I can offer something. And that was just a signal for me at that time. And at the same time, I was graduate from MBA, study about business in Japan. And then when I entered in this tech startup, I saw there are only men. There are no women in community of entrepreneurs in Tokyo. I said, why is that the case? Like, because I know in Japan, like, people are very well educated, so the education is not the problem. Like in some other countries, women, they don't have education, so it's hard for them to get the job. But in Japan, it's not the case. And then they explain me about the culture, that women usually enter in the company, married, kids, bam, career is over. I said, okay, so that was cultural shock for me. And I start to realize, but they cannot compete with the men in the case, because of the working culture in Japan. You have a long hours, so men stay, let's say, 10 p.m. and then they go to nomikai, drink with the clients, and they play golf every weekend. So women just cannot compete with those, because they don't can have any family, and it's not healthy, I would say. And at the same time, you have a new trend that Japanese corporate will want to change, and they spend quite a lot of money to try to do something, but it's going very, very slowly. And the main reason, because on the board you have only men, so they don't understand what should they change in order to attract more women, because they have to hire more women or teach them to be on the managerial position, because they understand what might work for women. But then internet revolution happened, and so many things happen. So women start to be smarter than before and take the leadership of their own life, and they start to organize themselves in some communities in Tokyo. And I was joining many of that communities, and we started to create some workshops just for empower women to think about their own business, or even if they decide to work for the corporations, how to communicate their needs, how to be more straightforward what they want. They cannot stay every day by 10 p.m. That's just not realistic. So they have to move quickly, and there is no reason that men cannot take some part of responsibility for the family. So that paradigm start to change. And then one of my mentors, she was working for the big bank, and she was very, very engaged in helping women in Japan and in Asia. And she said, Ed, I really like what you do. Why you don't create some community, but not only Japan, like invite some women from Singapore, from Australia, Hong Kong, because those Japanese women, they don't have the role model. They need to see more women like me. I said, okay, that's a good idea. And then I start to connect with some female entrepreneurs in Singapore, in Melbourne, and we start organizing some events, live events. And then in 2018, my business was hybrid, like half of business was offline and half of business was online. And then last year, Corona happened, and it now is 100% online. And actually, Now I have community of female entrepreneurs, not only from Japan and Asia, but also globally. And in the meantime, my wife, she did a really good job with her school. So she actually extended the maximum number of students, and she also shifted her business on online. And now she's kind of proof it's possible. It's possible in Japan. Like you come back from after 11 years in a country where they have a rule, after you graduate you have to be employee of one company for the whole life, right? But she moved. She didn't take that way. She started from scratch, and now she's dean of the Stanford. Spoke with her, and he's one of her mentor because he's also Japanese. So she really changed the rules. She and also the women which I'm working with, they also when they change that perspective, how powerful they might be, because they have everything. It's just changing of the paradigm. I mean, it's not just. So that's how I position myself. So I'm very passionate about talking with women. I interview over 300 female entrepreneurs globally. So we're organizing different digital summits, different workshops, online trainings, connection, networking. Same as you are new members in my community. So now I have an even bigger vision. I believe that this decade belongs to women in leadership, women entrepreneurs, and there is no any reason, and there is no way that we judge people based on their gender, judge people based on anything like that. We all have opportunity to live the life we deserve. We just have to communicate that strictly and be in community, that we can not be just as individuals, but like power of community is super strong, and then things start to happen. And I'm super optimistic about this trend. And also there are numbers behind. I can share a little bit later about the numbers, what I found, and what are my predictions for this decade for female entrepreneurship and purchasing power of women, and how this will change economy. Already is happening. In China, 6% of the 500 companies, top 500 Chinese companies, CEOs are women. That was mission impossible only 10 years ago. And that trend is just blowing everywhere.
It's so impressive. Deb, if you wanna, you're muted. But it's so impressive, and you're for me when I listen to that, it's like what you did is part of the history, because really giving a voice to women. And one of the reasons why I was so intrigued and impressed with you is because usually all the empowerment movement for women are driven by women. And it's quite unique to see a man driving a movement to empower women. So thank you for that. And I'm sure like you got a lot of thank yous already, and that you will get some more in the future. But Dev, I'll let you go and give your perspective on that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And so, yes, thank you as well. And I think Caroline nailed it when we said that most of the history have been around, women supporting women and having kind of that ally. And so it's an anomaly. It's very much an anomaly. And I think that there's a lot of gratitude around men and women coming together. You talked about sharing family roles. There's generations behind us and the generations that we're in that have seen that in all cultures, where, the shock of when men started staying home to take care of their kids, and some of the jousting that they got from their male friends. They're like, what are you doing? And it'd be interesting to see those friends that said to you, why are you leaving this safe environment in Croatia to go there? And then after a couple of years, what it is that your business turned into, because I'm pretty sure your business in Croatia probably wasn't about empowering women. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. So it's been interesting to see how that's worked, and how women have had to stand behind men and men have had to stand behind women. We've had to stand on our own. We've had different societal things to come up against. Men are supposed to be tough and strong. Women are supposed to be this. We're tough and strong. What does that make us? Men that aren't, are they weak? And all of those dynamics. And I know because me and Caroline are actually just releasing a book around 20 powerful women in business. And these are very successful women. And when we were sitting in this marketing circle, and we were sitting in this author's circle, even women of success we're talking about the challenge around the word powerful. And, some of these women are multimillionaires in a year in their industry. And they're like, who am I to author a chapter? And we're like, who are you? You're a very successful woman. And there's many, but we forget, I think, the road. I think we forget the road that it takes to get there. And sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I'm sure you must see that as women start the journey of the empowerment, whatever it looks like. I'd love to hear your numbers of what's happening. I'd also love to hear what it's like being a man in this sector, and what did your friends say to you?
Sure. So there was also one or two triggers for me when I really decided to move in that direction. So at the beginning, I didn't plan. I just graduated from MBA, and I tried Japanese corporation. During that time in Japanese corporation, what I found, like when the telephone is ringing in the company, only women pick up the phones. Men, they don't pick up the phones, although they are all in front of their computers. I said, why is that? So that was like small trigger for me. Okay, this is not fair. Why? Because of the gender, somebody has to work and it's the same company. They're working for the same shareholders. So that was just one. So, when you are a foreigner in Japan or any country, and then you always see maybe people who are in minority, and then you want to help them. So that's because you also feel that the same. So you have maybe some sense of which in a normal situation you don't have. And then one of my friends, she was she's super smart. She's a business owner, entrepreneur. She was preparing the whole MBA presentation for one Japanese company, what they can do in order to help HR to hire more women. And she really spent like 3 months of research to put all together, and then she presented in front of the company leaders. And after a 30 minutes presentation, it was super quiet. And then I was there, and nobody asked any single question, and she was super disappointed, and I was super disappointed too, because I realized it's useless, because they don't still understand, because somebody has to be inside to change the game. No, you can listen to the presentation, but then when you come on where actually decisions are made, nobody actually will be that voice who will change the way of so that was, and those kind of small events actually happened, that I decided this is not fair, this is not how it should be. And I can complain, but like I'm not a person who like to complain. I can do something. And then when I start to do something, actually I realize, okay, that there is also maybe my cultural perspective, there is also some of my bias, but at the same time there is a lot of things to do. And the easiest way, what I realized to do is so difficult to change, corporate culture. It takes very long time. But what I can do, I can start working with some women who want to start from scratch, just like me. Me. And that was at the beginning hobby, like we had some workshops, and then gradually start to be a business. And what my friends told me about this, the friends in Croatia, they said, you have the best job which anybody can imagine ever, because they are just looking from the fun perspective. Oh, you're working with the women exclusively, so it must be super fun. Some of them, they say, oh, that's rude, that's why you are doing this, why but to be honest, I don't care. Because this is something which you found it inspired. When I wake up, I know I'm going to do this. Nobody forced me, so I can do many different kind of businesses. I get so many offers to do something different. But this is I think the social entrepreneurs, that's the future. So somebody needs to take care about the ocean. Somebody needs to take care about equal education for everyone. So I took this role. And the numbers, and the society is changing. So I'm also from the marketing background, so I can imagine what's going on in the market. So in the US right now, 40% of working women is actually making more money than husbands. Okay, who married women. So that's already start to be normal. 40% of the workforce are already freelancer, and actually women are more efficient in terms of the online business, because somehow they can connect better online with the communities. Influencer business, all those things. Then if you think about the purchasing power is already $23 trillion US. Women can buy the goods for 23 trillion US dollar. What that means? That means that the big companies, they have to change the value chain. They have to change the whole system because they want to adjust their products for what women wants to buy, because now they have more money than before. I will give you one example from Saudi Arabia. So only 2 years ago, women were not allowed to drive cars. Now they can drive the cars. And what do you think? What kind of cars they are buying? Everybody's thinking, oh yeah, they're going to buy some Mini Morris or Fiat. No, they're buying Ferraris, they're buying Lamborghinis, same as men. And that was okay. See, this is interesting. So basically, when you give the same opportunity to everyone, then it's not about the gender, it's about how good you are or how passionate you are, or good in what you are doing. And that means that in a relationship, men and women, they can take position and think, okay, maybe you're a better entrepreneur than I am, so maybe I can take this role and you can take this role, because that's the point how we as a society can grow, that we don't have those biases. We have to stop have these biases and really give everyone to do what he or she think is the best for him or her. And that communication has to be in the all level. First, you have to communication with yourself, then with your partner, with your children's, and then in your company. And that's a self-love. And when that's changed, then part of the change, like I think it's going to be a renaissance. And there is one book which predicts that women will actually have more power, purchasing power by 2030. That's only 9 years from now, because of this trend. Of course, in some countries, it's going to take longer because of education, first because of education, but of those countries such as Europe, US, Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, when they change this paradigm, it's going to happening. And now the one treat is that women start to behave like a man. I don't want that. I want them that they can use their power, be successful, but they don't just be ego-driven. Don't just do the same mistake as men did. Don't just compete between each other. Don't just kill your opponents or your competitors. Collaborate. So if women can bring that power of collaboration between the companies, between the team, that will be something which we all need. We know that when you're working in a team, when you have a different opinion and like people who are supporting the team, not just I want to be the best, I don't care about anybody else. That's not so. That's my place, and that's my position. That's what I'm working with women. Yeah, be successful, be whatever you want to be, but also think about society, think about community. Don't just doing because of you. It's more about impact, and that's why branding and positioning come into place.
I love that you say that. And one of my words for 2021 is sisterhood. Because in 2020, Deborah and I did, we did different projects, and everything that we do always shows me that when women join together, we're powerful. We are powerful. But you said something that really resonates with me, is you want women to stay women. And that's really also where I want to see the change going. It's not, having a CEO of a company acting exactly like a man would. It's really having, like, without getting in politics, we have some prime ministers around the world, well, some, not a lot, but that are really making a change because they're acting differently. They didn't just take a position of power and decided I'm going to do what everyone else did. So I think that this is a really crucial point that you made there. Anyway, that resonated with me. And it's going to take time because there are all the cultures, there's, centuries behind us, basically, of habits, of culture, of things. So it's going to take time, but I really feel like we're in momentum right now. We're really in momentum, and the ball is really rolling. And to see men now joining forces and being like, yeah, we'll push you. And I mean, you didn't face a small market. You faced Asia is really pretty, culturally, it's really more strict than anywhere else, I would say. So again, the only thing that I can say is thank you for what you're doing. And it's with people like this, like you, and that little changes everywhere, that we are going in the right direction. and I know that women will rule the world, but no, I'm joking. My point is not that. My point is really like, not my point, but my personal goal is really just that, exactly what you said, that the best end up where they belong. So wherever women are best and men are best, like whatever the industry is, if you as a person, as an individual, you're better in that role, go in that role. Whether you're a man or a woman, that's really where I want to see, my kids growing up in that world of like, just go where you will be the best. So that's going to be my closing because, I could
If I
say,
can just add one more thing, Carol,
yeah,
I think this to just come back on the beginning of this story. So when you change the culture and environment, and then you are like in minority, like in Japan is only 2% of the expats, right? And most of them are from Southeast Asia, so very few from Europe, very few from the US. So you can take that position as a disadvantage or actually huge advantage. So, and then you see something which normal people don't see in their daily lives. And I think for all of people who really want to grow, make that decision. Go somewhere where you don't have bloody idea what's going to happen, because that will be a turning point, and you will realize what you really want to do and how you want to make an impact. So in my case, it's helping female entrepreneurs, but who knows what is inside of you, which is waiting for that moment that you can realize what that is. But if you are just living normal life in a comfortable environment, you cannot figure out what that is. So that will be my point of how I came up where I am now. Maybe if I stayed in Croatia, it never happened. But because of this huge change, I realized this is the place where I want to have an impact.
That's amazing. So it reminds me of a lot of the times when I'm talking to business people that have had success. They said, I failed to success, meaning, and that they said that the time that their company grew the most, or the time that their paycheck moved the most, or the time that they were the most satisfied is when they were sitting in the uncomfortable zone. Yeah. And it's like, it's the uncomfortable times that make something different, at the very least, if not something better. And it's from uncomfortable to uncomfortable to uncomfortable. And when you're not growing and things kind of stay the same, it's okay to rest for a while. And that might be the plateau that you want to go. But when your stomach gets nervous and you don't want to do something, is the time to do it, right? And we know that. You interview people, we interview people. I was just on a call with one of our authors. She's like, I don't know if I can do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, you can. Because your gut wants to and your head doesn't. So I just wanted to layer the fact that that's exactly right. And I think, like Carolyn was talking about, the changes that are happening, I think, we should celebrate the fact that we are a part of change. It is happening right now. People will look back at us in, 5 years or 4 years or 3 years and go, wow, there was this movement. Wow, I joined this guy, Ed. I couldn't believe he did this. And then if you go back 3 years and you go back and talk about what our mothers did, or the generation before that, and some of the breakaways that they had, and some countries aren't even allowed to get divorced, and you look at the evolution. It's like, one of Caroline's favorite authors is Jeff Olson with The Slight Edge. It's that overlaying. It's like moving a little bit at a time. And then eventually you get to this amazing place where you're talking to a man that's about you. This conversation wouldn't probably happen 5 years ago, or you wouldn't conceptualize it. And one of the things I think that 2020 did for everybody from a business standpoint, an entrepreneurial standpoint, was when e-commerce hit the airwaves, it took gender out of the game.
Yep.
It blew the ceiling level off, because you can have an e-commerce business, right? Or build e-commerce, or your wife, she started with a blog. I mean, how incredible. How many stories have we heard of success that started with a blog, with people that didn't even know what a blog was, right? And so I think this new world of entrepreneurialism has started to shake off some of the gender, because it's e-commerce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any last things that you would like to say before we wrap up? I know that you kind of shared your words, Caroline, Ed. I mean, this has been just such a revolutionary interview.
I will say one thing that Deb likes to hear, but oh my gosh, you're so right. The way you've put it, that 2020 really took away gender. And It's the first time I hear you say it this way, and I'm like, oh, she's so right. So you can mark the date. No. So,
People know me and Caroline for how much we love each other.
yeah.
So I will actually. I'll write that down.
Yes. But
Thank you, Ed.
it's always an honor and a pleasure to meet you, and all our best to you and to your wife. We haven't met her, but now I want to read her blog. So, and I'm happy to be in your community. But basically, if people want to reach you, or if women want to share, sorry, what am I saying there? If women want to join your network, because I know it's a network that provides a lot of value, and maybe you can tell us just a little bit about what value it provides and how to reach you or join it.
Sure. So for all female entrepreneurs, models, and artists who want to join my community, it's a branding and positioning with Ed. It's a private Facebook group, which I launched 1.5 years ago. Now it's contain over 1,300 members from over 70 countries. And they are all the same in terms that they are all very creative. They have different businesses. Some have products, some have services, and they have the passion to share and connect with other female entrepreneurs. So if you want to be interviewed, if you want to join other women in their communities, find the new friends, customers, prospects, please join us. It's free to join. We have different events, digital summits, online trainings, and once when COVID stopped to be like in pandemic, then we will have live events again. So I invite all of you guys who are interested, please join me. And if you are men, you can also reach out to me, so we can also see how we can collaborate to support more women globally. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That was amazing. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Ed.
So have an amazing evening, afternoon, or day, everyone, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.